Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button before you leave, that helps out a great deal for my channel. If you want to leave a comment or a suggestion or a challenge or just a question or anything in the comments, that's great. I appreciate those things as well. Today I'm going to do something that I've not tried before. I have a round stone and it's got an unusual shape cut to it, and I'm going to try and do kind of a pressure setting to hold it in, and it'll make more sense when I show you a picture. But what inspired me to do this was I have a floor lamp that has these bulbs that are kind of atypical, and you put them inside of their sleeve, and then there's a little ring clip that pops into place to hold them in place, and that kind of made me think of what could I do with that with a stone. So we'll see if we can pull something like that off. Before we get started, I wanted to thank my YouTube subscribers. We just passed 7,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much. That's amazing. Next stop, 10,000. I appreciate all your support and kind words. Thank you so much for that. I have a lovely group of patrons over on Patron who are paying for my premium content. I wanted to thank them as well. I really love their support and the conversations we're having amongst ourselves over there. It's a really nice community, so thanks you guys for making it that way. So let's get started on this project and see if we can pull it off. This is my design idea book, which are incidentally available on my merch store. I've pretty much filled this one up. Ever since I started doing the YouTube channel, it's been a good way for me to sketch out my designs in advance. I almost need to break out a new one, so there's several different designs on the merch store if you'd like. This is what I have going today. Got this, I don't know how big it is, I didn't really measure it, let's see. It's about a 30 millimeter stone, so. And it's got kind of an unusual cut on it. If you look at the edge of it, it's got kind of a straight up angle like that, maybe 75 degrees or something like that. And then it's got a rounded top on it. It has an unpolished back, which is fine, but I still want light to go through it, so I'm going to set it open backed. And to do that, what I'm going to do here is, at least this is my plan, I'm going to create a little sort of a cup platform that's not really a bezel, but just has a little small ridge for this to keep it in place, so it can't move around that way. And it'll be open backed, and I'll use some 16 gauge square, which I was using for yesterday's or the day before's project. I have some left over, so I'll use that to create a lip on the inside for it to sit on. And then I'm going to make these sort of semicircle pieces of 18 gauge sitting on its side like this, 18 gauge sheet, and they need to be about that tall, I think. So to explain what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to try and have these angle inwards a little bit in front of this, so it's kind of going over the top of the stone a little bit, but not right next to it exactly. I'm going to leave a little space and cut a notch, probably with a diamond bit, into the ends of these two things, you know, down right about where it would be perfect to pop a ring in there and hold it in place, like a pressure fitting in there. And we'll see if that works. I don't know if I can do it or not, but we'll try it. It seems like it should work, so it'll be a fun experiment. And then I'll just add a standard bail on it. If you want to see how I do this, I probably won't do that part on camera, but there's a link up there about how to make that kind of bail. I use those a lot. And so let's make the platform for it first. I think I'm going to use 26 gauge sterling sheet for the little border, since it's not really a bezel. It's just going to be a little upright ridge, basically. It'll be just like making a bezel, except out of sterling. It's going to have to be about a little more than 3 times as long as that. So there. So if I cut a piece right off the end of this, it should be long enough. I'm just going to do like 3 millimeters, I think. 1, 2, 3, so about right there. I'm going to be using my backup torch today, which is an old antique Prestolite. acetylene air torch. I normally use a Smith, what used to be called the Smith Handy Heat torch, but now is called the Smith Silversmith torch. Just to fit in there pretty snugly. This is one of my antique Prestolites. I would guess this is probably Bakelite. This is pretty old torch. I don't know that for sure though, but if you've not watched one of my videos before, I use hard silver sheet solder for almost everything, and a spray-on flux called My-T-Flux. Okay, so now I'm going to take a piece of this 16 gauge square. Can't make a piece that fits right inside of there. Designate this side as the bottom. Right. You can shape this in whatever way you want. I generally do it kind of by hand. Square wire, again, is always going to twist on you a little bit, so you got to correct that as you go. Got it just a tiny bit big. I can snip out a little bit if I need to make it really tight. I try not to have a gap on the bottom. Don't want an unsightly mistake. A little bit more. Now I'm going to spend a little time making sure this sits flat. I normally just solder these in one pop, but I'm going to make sure this one's soldered closed first. That's pretty flat. Okay, so what I'm going to do is flux this and then set it on top of a ring of pieces of solder, and then we'll just heat the whole thing till it pulls it up. Okay, that'll work, I think. I think it needs to be even a little bit shorter. Snug enough on this one that I'm not careful. Right on the edge of this piece of agate. Agate is a cryptocrystalline quartz like flint or jasper, and so if you push just wrong on a sharp edge like that, it'll spall a piece off and create what's it fractures what's called conchoidally, meaning it scoops out a kind of a spoon-shaped piece when you hit it just right. The reason that ancient people were able to fashion agates and jaspers into projectile points and other tools is the fact that it consistently chips that way. So you can control that and shape it. But in this case, I just don't want to inadvertently break a little piece off. That's basically how I want it to sit. Okay, so I think next step is probably going to be to make these outer pieces, and this is how long these pieces from here to here came out to be, about 61 millimeters. So I'm going to cut a few pieces of 18, or 2 pieces of 18 gauge about that long. It looks like I have enough here. Oh, 8 millimeters. cut a second one of those, and then I'll file them. Okay, I did a little bit of measuring and stuff off camera, and I got this to be about the right size. And so I'm going to use that as a guide for the second one, and we'll see how it looks. I also used my miter vise jig to cut a 45-degree angle on either of these, so I think I'm going to straighten this out so we can use it to measure the other one. If you haven't seen these are pretty handy sometimes. Just slide it in here. It's got an automatic 45-degree angle in there. Well, just built-in 45-degree angle, I should say. Line that up. Find my little T-pin wherever you went. There you are. About the same. Cut it just a little bit long so I can file it right up to the line. Pretty darn close. Make sure each one of these has a nice flat surface. So these little cutoff pieces I think I'll use as the inward pointing pieces, and one of them I cut a 45 on here. So I think I'll do it on the other side as well, and then we'll cut it in half. Not perfect, but close. Let's see if we can get the other one kind of round. It's pretty close. I think that should probably work. Let's try soldering one together and see what happens. I'm going to use a magnesia block here. I'll try and push this in a little bit. Okay. Looks like I have plenty of solder there. I may try using my other torch. It might still have more gas in this. I thought this one had a full tank, but doesn't seem like it does. So I guess I really need to find the kind of the center point on this. So let's line it up with that, and I kind of have them, since I drew a X through here to get the center point. So that's pretty close. So if I was to get this all lined up nice along the edge of that, it would be about like that. So maybe let's make a mark on this. I'm going to make a mark kind of where I want it to cross this. I also need a mark right where it's going to be cut. But I think for now I'm gonna angle this up like this. Okay, now it's about the height of this. I'm going to make a little slot where I'm going to make a kind of an indent out to right here. You could use a saw, or you could use a Dremel, or whatever kind of rotary tool you use, but I'm going to try and get those vertical to match the vertical sides of this, so that'll fit right in there. So I'll be right back. Okay, so you can kind of see maybe what I did here. Got a little notch down here and angled those up, and I've been playing with the dimensions of this. I needed this notch to be tall enough to where that'll fit under there, so I may make that just slightly deeper, and if I do that, I may need to take this edge right here up inwards a little bit, otherwise I'll be pushing against the stone. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to make a second one of these. So I got these cut pretty well, I think. I'll probably try and get those soldered on now. Find those purple marks. Let's try getting that one on, and then we'll add the other one. That's positioned just about right. Okay, so I did a few things off camera. I did some filing and stuff. I went ahead and I started doing some shaping in here, and what I've done is I've created, right here, I've indented it a little bit with the Dremel, there and there. And this is just narrow enough to be able to tilt this in there and get it into the tight cup that I created here. Get it all pushed down in there. And then when we're ready to set it, created this ring that fits right in there. Should be able to snap it in there. And then that'll be our way to hold the stone in. So I think that'll be pretty good. So last thing we need to do is put a bail on here. So let's see if we can get this out of here. Went ahead and made one of those bails that fits over the ring here. So this will attach this ring right there. Oops. Like that. And then we'll pop this over it and solder it closed, and then we'll just have to pickle everything, and then once I polish, we'll pop that stone in there. So let's get that done. So now really I just need to flux that and then heat it up to the point where it flows again and should stick to it. It's a lot more mass in the big piece there than there is in the small piece, so most of the heat needs to go there. I add just a little bit more to make sure it's a really good strong solder joint. So those two ends are pushing together nicely. Let's just pick solder that real quick and we'll be ready to pickle. I'm going to heat this up and throw that in the pickle too. One of the few times where you don't heat the entire piece. Until you're ready to pickle. Now I'm ready to pickle, so I'm just going to heat that up a little bit, throw it in. So I got it all polished up and it came out pretty nice, I think. I'll get it shined up with a polishing cloth too, but let's pop this in here. So let's make sure there's no debris on here. Make sure it gets all the way in there. I'm going to pop it in there. There we go. I think this might be a cool idea if you had several stones that were the same shape and different types of stone. Like you could swap them out periodically. That might be a nice, interchangeable kind of way to display different stones. So, all right, I'll take some nice pictures, put them at the end. All right, well, that was the experimental setting with a little kind of translucent agate. And I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. I'd love it if you'd leave a comment. And don't forget to check out the video description for some relevant links and ways to support the channel. You can go to my merch store where you get, like the design idea book or the pickle time wine tumbler. Although you probably shouldn't drink wine while you're doing silversmithing. And there's a link to buy me a coffee, which is actually a way to tip me to help me with supplies and things like that. So I appreciate that if people do that. And my website for jewelry, as well as my Patreon. So check those things out. Thanks for watching. Come back again. Happy silversmithing.